What is up, mortals? Alex here. Today we will be going over my latest DD deck list for the July 2020 format. The non-existing format, as we all know. COVID definitely kill all the hopes we had of playing with cool cards in 2020. But the game's still not dead. I'm not dead, and DDs are certainly not dead. One of the most fun decks I've ever played. If you stuck with me for 4 years now, you've seen me build this deck quite often. One of my favorite ones to play and to deck build. Last time I profiled this, we had just gotten Needlefiber and Gilgamesh, and we were still playing both of those. Very good cards. Both of those cards give the deck a new life, a new engine to play with, and Needlefiber being the most important card in the entire extra deck now. This is a very different list than the one I posted a few months ago. Something very different than a lot of the lists that I've seen online. I don't think there's a particular way to play this deck correctly, or the correct way, quote unquote. There's a few ways that you can go about it. You can do a more pendulum heavy list. You can do a more main deck orientated non-pendulum DD monsters list. You can do more fusions, you can do more synchros, more XCs, you can do more links. In my case, I decided to split it quite evenly, a decent amount of fusions, synchros, XCs, and links. But I'm focusing more on the synchro aspect of the deck. There's so many synchro monsters that are just absurd, allows us to do so much. Very powerful effects, very easy win conditions to meet. This deck allows us to pretty much do whatever we want. So I'll be going over the main deck. This is a 39 card deck. Max consistency. We want to get to all our combos as fast as we can. So for that, we'll be playing 3 Keplers. It lets you search gates, essentially. That's all it does. Being a 10 scale is quite nice sometimes. This is how you summon your Thomas, and then you can pop it with Thomas to summon a Ragnarok and go for a rank 8. But he's usually there to search gates. Sword Slime, the best starter in the deck. Sword Slime in hand, accompanied with Lamia and Necro Slime, allows us to pretty much build whatever board we want, make any play we choose, play around so many different cards if they resolve. Having multiple Sword Slime is never bad, unless you have all 3, which that never really happens. We play a Lord to get rid of it, and he's still a name if he were happen to break in any case. Now that Gilgamesh is around, drawing multiple of any DD monsters, never too terrible. Gilgamesh needing just 2 DD monsters to summon, very good. So Sword Slime max out on all the time, from now and forever. Lamia, the main tuner of the deck. You definitely have to play 3. A lot of the turns involve you summoning 2 to 3 Lamias per turn, which is insane. And you'll be looping those with its effect by normal summoning, or by the effect of the kings, by bringing other monsters. Very good, very key card to the deck. Hopefully stays at 3 forever. If it goes to 2, it wouldn't. I guess back in the days, it went to 2 to Japan, and it didn't really do much harm to the deck, which is an inconvenience. But hopefully, Lamia stays at 3 forever. We definitely need it to stay as many copies as it can for as long as it can. For now, Necro Slime, one of the better cards of the deck as well, but you don't want to draw multiples of this card ever. Again, I guess you could say the same thing for Sword Slime. Why would you want to draw multiples? Well, I much rather open with multiple Sword Slime than Necro Slime. Necro Slime is not a starter. It's just an extender that needs to be in the graveyard. It's really good to have all the time, of course, but there are ways to recycle cards from your banish pile, especially with DD Goes. So I decided to cut it to 2 and add another card in its place, and I'll explain it when I get to it. And DD Goes, the second to last tuner actually, but the third tuner we never really summon. DD Goes is its level 2 application is very important for a lot of the plays the deck has. In both of its effects are extremely relevant. When it's sent to the graveyard by any means, you can send an additional copy of a card that you already have there. So it lets you fuel your graveyard to serve as an extender or for a follow-up. And when it's banished, it lets you return a banished DD card, which is very, very good, honestly. That effect is one of the reasons why I like this card compared to the other two. Being a tuner level 2 is nice and all, and it's really good for the deck. Sending additional copies is really nice, but when it's banished, allowing you to return anything back to the graveyard, it's so strong. I've considered playing a second one, and I have seen a few people play it too. I just can't bring myself to do it. So those are the main play starters of the deck. You want to have access to all of these at all the time. And another thing about Needle Fiber giving the deck so much life is that you can go and get whichever tuner you need straight to the field, just thanks to Needle Fiber. Sometimes you have all the Lamias you need and you just go get a Ghost to be a level 2 that can start fueling your graveyard and your banish pile. It's really good. I like this ratio a lot. Something that I decided to focus my deck on is TG Hyper Librarian. One of the best synchros in the game, possibly one of the best monsters in the game. Letting you draw a card every time either player synchro summons is just so strong. I decided to, I went back to my 2017-18 days of DDs, and I was looking at the ways I was playing it, and I was playing Librarian a lot. I feel like the deck synchro summons enough, and for you to not play Librarian. It's just too hard to pass. Copernicus allows us to get to Librarian into level 4 body, which is really good. It's a pendulum, so we can keep spamming him turn after turn. If we draw multiples of him, he can serve as a scale, if anything. Or this is the primary target for a lore in my deck. But I always want to have access to this. If we have any of these guys here, and Copernicus, our turns, our boards that we could already make, which are really strong, by the way. If you haven't played DDs for long, or if you know the deck already, you know the place that these cards alone can perform. But if we add a Copernicus in the mix, it just makes things a lot better by putting a TG Hyper Librarian and drawing new cards while you synchro summon. And there's another very key application that Copernicus serves. Just remember the level and the type of monster that he is. Copernicus is one of my favorites on summon effects, which, by the way, it has a summon effect I guess cherry on the top, right? When it's summoned, you can foolish a DD card. So he's an Armageddonite. He's not terrible to have. I would much rather have this card all the time than any other card, or many other DD cards that we will not be mentioning or playing in this deck list. Call me crazy. I've seen people play 2 of this, but I just can't get behind that. This card is one of the best things about the game. One of the main reasons why I'm still playing the game, honestly. I see this card and it just makes me want to play this deck more and more, and it makes me want to play the game even more. We want to have access to this card all the time. Have multiples in hand, that's fine. He's a 3000 defender that just sits there. We can make 38 with it. We can banish problematic monsters. He's just so good. Every single effect of this card is excellent. Play 3, no less. For this pendulum support that DDs has, we're playing the 3rd tuner and the way to 5 back row, or one of the ways to 5 back row. Having a main deck out to Mystic Mind, to There Can Only Be One, or Ghost and Match, Rivalry, all of those cards, it's just too good to pass. Some people do not play this because it restricts you into summoning anything but fiends. We never summon this card unless we are normal summoning and we're that desperate to make a Needle Fiber. Any other times he's just there to be a scale that pops a card, or being a level 3 scale to go along with your Ragnarok that allows you to pendulum summon your Copernicus. So he has like some good applications. Sharing the name DD is really good as well, but he doesn't do anything else besides pop back row, honestly. You still have to play the 1 copy, I believe. The card that we never want to see ever, at least I don't. Hopefully I never draw this card, but he's part of one very key play the deck has that allows you to summon an additional level 8 synchro just by having this card in your main deck, which is really cool. A little too hard to pass again. If you were playing Cross Sheep and Savage, which I am not, by the way, this card makes it even better, since you can link away with your Cross Sheep, then make Savage with this by bringing a Lamia. Since your Ragnarok is usually the card that Gilgamesh places. So when this is summoned, you get back the Lamia, you make your Savage, and you have an additional negate. But this card is just terrible. You never want to see it. It's just god awful. One Thomas. Many lists have cut this, and I just can't get behind that. I could cut one copy, but not all of them. I still acknowledge the fact that there will be a grind game, especially nowadays. There's so many control decks that are decent, and this deck is not the best deck, by the way. So I will play against those grindy matchups, and Thomas has always brought me back from like those games back then, and still does it now. Being a way to summon number 38 or Kaluga for essentially free is just too good to pass as well. I just can't cut him. He's just too good. And for the new card, Reggie, excellent card. There's one thing that I wish this card didn't have, and that's one level. It could have every single level but one, and at that point this card would be like so much better. It's a level 10 Fiend, and if you know DDs, most of their scales go to 10. So we can't Pendulum Summon him, sadly, right? But we can special summon him from the hand, from the graveyard, from the deck, so many ways, which is really neat. He has 0/0 attack and defense. He can't be destroyed by battle, which is cool. If our opponent's life points are 4,000 or less, when he attacks, he gains attack equal to their life points, so he can go and one-shot them if anything. Which it can happen in this deck. This deck puts out so much damage that Reggie hitting for 4,000, it's actually very doable. Its other effect is the reason why this card is so strong. Once per turn, you contribute one other monster you control. For the rest of the turn, you can either attack with him directly, your opponent can't activate spells or traps they control, or can't use effects in the hand or graveyard. So it's essentially protection for your entire play. If you're playing against a control deck, you go and get this, lock them out from their back row. If you're playing a deck that needs to go second and they're playing, needs to go first, but people still main deck a bunch of hand traps, you will be hand trapped 100% nowadays. So you're playing against one of those decks, and if you turn away their hand traps, your 2 to 3 negates will stop the one play that they have. And even if they have more, by the time that their hand traps are useful, we'll have enough advantage to fight, to pretty much dominate them and win the game. Its pendulum effect, it's kind of irrelevant. Yes, we do still take damage in this deck. There's something that I added to the extra deck to help us when we're running low, but you never really burn yourself to death. So this card, once per turn, if you take any damage, you just don't take it. So I guess he's a free 1,000 damage. And if you would summon a DD monster level 5 or higher, you can normal summon it without tribute. It actually comes up a lot of the times. We have 4 different high-level DD monsters. These 3 in Vice Typhoon. And Vice Typhoon has a really unique ability that not a lot of DD monsters have, and you would never really use it because you would never tribute 2 monsters for this unless you're just styling. But if you have Reggie, in the extra deck, you can normal summon Vice Typhoon, and when this card is normal summon, you can go get in level 7 triple D monster from your deck. So you go get Apocalypse. So it saves you from drawing this card, and it's also a DD monster you can link to for Gilgamesh and do some other plays. Or it just gets you 2 level 7 monsters to synchro with, and if this goes to the graveyard, remember you can still fuse, which we'll go over right now. So Reggie, really cool card. I wouldn't play any more than one, of course, but this card creates some really neat interactions. I like the one copy, very happy it's out. Vice Typhoon is just an extender. That interaction when you normal summon this, when you have Reggie, that play hopefully never happens because it's so bad. The moment you place a scale nowadays, your Gilgamesh is just useless. Vice Typhoon is just there to play through some negates. Since we usually want to send this card to the graveyard somehow, and that's when we can banish it and something else to fuse for an extender that brings out another guy. So Vice Typhoon, I still like the one. For the next cards, it's just consistency and hand traps, or consistency and like defense. So best card in the deck, Dark Contract with the Gates. It searches any of the guys we just went over. We are aiming to search to find this card every single hand, preferably in the opening hand. If we do, we can't really lose. A lot of our plays are very strong, and if this card resolves twice, we win the game. So we want to have as many copies of this as we can. I ended up cutting the third Necro Slime for a copy of Wararthal, and just the one copy was weird. I had it sometimes and it was fine, but this card is not once per turn, and I want to see it often. I want to be able to like do a full combo all the time. So having Wararthal in the deck, it's a lot better now. It's a lot more consistent. I don't have to worry about drawing too many Necro Slimes, and again, drawing multiple Keplars is never bad. Having multiple Lamias is never bad. So I decided to make that Necro Slime and cut a Strike. I was playing Strike at that point. Then it became a Call by the Grave. So I decided to just play 2, and with 2, it ensures that I have it when I need it and not oversee it like when it was at 3. And at 1, I never had it. So where I thought was really cool. Lets me search the cards that I need to go and get without really playing more copies. 2 Allure Darkness from 3 now to 2. Very good card in the deck. Everybody's dark, so this card should always have a target. But we don't want to banish certain cards, and this deck hates me like every single deck. I just draw awful. So Allure Darkness allows me to like make my bad hands into playable hands, but whenever I have a monster I don't want to banish, usually the Ragnarok, I just end up banishing for like actual combo pieces. And that's why I decided to cut it from 3 to 2, because I want to have it, but not all the time. And since my deck's already consistent enough and it draws enough cards, I should be fine with 2. Same with 2 Pot of Desires. I kept activating the 1 and drawing a second copy off of it, and that was just absurd. Come on, it happened too often. And I wanted to play 40 cards with an upstart. So 39, I decided to cut an Allure and the third Desire is to make it 40 even. 2 Desires, I see it all the time. I never see a second one from the first one. It usually gets banished. So I think 2 is fine in this deck. Upstart Goblin, we're drawing lots of cards. We just want to turbo through our deck and get to what we need to ensure a victory. 1 for 1, it summons Kepler straight from the deck, so it lets you get Gates. If you already have Gates, it lets you get Lamia. Just good. Jeez, good card. Foolish Burial is a 4th Copernicus, or it's an additional copy of whatever card you were missing. I was playing Monster Reborn as well, but I ended up cutting it. Foolish Burial still made the cut for the versatility that it has. Being anything I need at a specific moment, it's just too hard to pass. Definitely play the 1 Foolish. All of those cards that I just went over need to resolve. If they do, we usually win the game. We don't lose to 1 hand trap, we lose to 2 and 3. We lose to 2 if we're going second in breaking a board. We lose to 3 if we're going first and don't have a way to stop the third. So I decided to keep 2 Call by the Graves instead of 3, because I kept seeing the third too often. So at 2, even if I have both, I still have 3 other cards in my opening hand that should be comboed thanks to everything that I play, and or 4 with Desires. So 2 Call by the Graves is just good. It lets me play through 2 hand traps and ensure a victory. Best card in the game. The deck still plays some other contracts, Swamp King and Witch. Swamp King, it's just an extender. I wish I didn't have to play this card, but the turns that we don't get to fuse because we don't have Swirl Slime are really awkward. So Swamp King allows us to start those plays with us relying on Swirl Slime. Very good card, searchable, so we play it. And Witch is one of my favorite cards in the entire deck as well. I had cut this for a very long time. I added it back. It's just too good. I kept missing it. There's so many grind matchups where this card is champion. Against specific random matches, having a Raigeki break effect once per turn, either player's turn, is just too much for them to handle. Very good card. On their turn, it makes all your dudes plus 1,000. That's huge. They have so much. They have to fight so much to beat over your dudes. definitely play the One Witch all the time. I have been missing it when I didn't play, and now it's in the deck. I know it's there, so I can go get it whenever I need to. We're playing some hand traps in this deck, since we do play against real decks around here. We don't play too many because I didn't want to make this deck be able to compete against the top decks all the time. I made it more of a, I'll try, and I'm sure if my combo resolves, I'll win. But if you have like too many hand traps in, then I won't be able to play, and vice versa. If I don't have enough hand traps to stop you, then I lost. I'll take a loss, right? Because I'm not playing too many hand traps. But we still want to play any amount. Ash Blossom covers a lot of ground, things that Siegfried or Crystalline can't hit. And the one impermanence used to be a Into the Void, which I ended up cutting immediately because I kept drawing my hand traps. And you're going to tell me, why were you playing them in the first place? Well, I draw so many cards in my play or with the draw cards that I have that I'd much rather keep that Into the Void in my hand for later on, or not activate it, so I can keep my hand traps and actually win the game by stopping everything my opponent did. But it kept coming to my opening hand, so it was either cut these two and play the Thera Lore and the Thera Desires, or keep the Ash Blossoms and the Impermanence, and it just stabilizes the deck a lot more. It makes it a lot better, honestly. Like if you have a turbo deck, I would take these cards out if we had Upstart at 3, and I would find something else, right? Upstart at 3, and I would play Reborn at that point. Honestly, I would just try to go off, but there has to be some way to stop your opponent. If they resolve their combo, if they're playing a superior deck, you will lose. These two cards stop very specific things that the other two guys can't really touch, or we prefer them not to, since the longer you hold your negates, the better they become. So I want to use Siegfried and Crystalline whenever I need to. Now, if I just randomly have to I'm randomly baited by my opponent's effects. So having some hand traps allows the deck to be a little more stable, a little more defensive as well. I've been really enjoying these. I might make the Ash Impermanence, since the VFD decks are seeing a lot of play right now. So 3 hand traps, that makes it 40 even, 39. If you guys have any questions about the main deck, please post them down below. I'm sure we can all go over them and discuss a few points. I'm not sure if this is the best list, but in my opinion, the way that I play the deck, it does me the best. It shows the best results I've had in a very long time. For the extra deck, 2 Genghis. The first one, I guess this is bread and butter. The first one comes up immediately after you start the game, and the second one comes up after you've been hand trapped or you're pushing for game. I wish I was playing Hive King Caesar, the Executive Caesar, because we can stack both of these Genghis and then summon that dude that protects our field from 2 special summons. I played it earlier on when it came out, but after a little bit I decided to cut it. It just became a little too gimmicky, and if there's a lot more effects in the meta that special summon more monsters, I would. But there's a lot of inherent summons in the game right now. So the 2 Genghis are just excellent. I was playing one for a little bit, for a tiny bit, and I missed the second one so much that it went in immediately. 2 Genghis. D-Arc is back in the extra deck. She had come out, and it was really difficult for me to cut this card in the first place, because I love this card so much. One of the reasons why I picked up the deck back in the day, I looked at this card and I fell in love with the artwork. It's really cool. Its effects are a little irrelevant, honestly, unless you're playing a grindy matchup and they have negated a lot of your things. You can just sit on D-Arc and your Dark Contracts and rack up all the life points. And remember that if you are resolving your gates turn after turn, there's no way you're losing, right? You're assembling an army and D-Arc is keeping you alive. You're gaining all the life points. Plus, the turns, there's some games where all you have is a way to get to D-Arc and 2 to 3 DD monsters in hand. If you're playing against a control matchup, you can just sit on this and control the game fairly well. Every turn you'll gain 1,000, making it impossible for those decks to beat you. And also being a level 7 is very important for a lot of the combos. Sometimes you do not want to waste your second Genghis on the middle of a play, so you much rather have an expendable monster that you can just throw in there, and then you can bring it back later on. It's a DD monster, level 7, has very good synergy with the deck. Decided to bring it back in. For the last fusion, High Executive Genghis, amazing card. I don't need to explain this card any further. I'm sure you all know what it does. It's so many good things for the deck. Very good card. I've been wanting to play a second one for a very long time, but the second one is just a little too cute. For the synchros, Formula Synchron, there's so many ways to summon this dude, but we usually do summon this from Needle Fiber, drawing cards on our opponent's turn and synchro summoning right immediately after that. It's really good. I'm super happy, super stoked we're playing Formula again. And one of the main focal points of my deck, TG Hyper Librarian, one of my favorite cards ever. I'm glad it's back at 1. This 3, this card was insane. Finally, he's back at 1. Happy people were not abusing it. But even at 1, he's still insane. And I immediately build a DD deck that play Librarian as soon as I realized that it was still legal, because I had thought it was banned. So Librarian and Needle Fiber, best friends. We can draw so many cards. We can draw up to 4 cards with this card, 2 on our turn and 2 on our opponent's turn. We usually keep him just chilling there and then synchroning next to him, racking actual negations with the cards that you're drawing as well. That's why I wanted to keep the Ash Blossoms and Impermanence in case of a draw after a long combo, after a digging session. I'm sure I'll draw at least 1 relevant card with Librarian that will protect my board and protect the monsters that I've summoned. So I highly recommend playing that card. If you're not, give it a chance. I promise you'll enjoy it. Metaphys Horrors is a tech that I started playing back in 2018. I realized that we can summon it, but it wasn't very practical at first. We could summon Formula, yeah, but we usually summon Siegfried to start negating our opponent's dimensional barriers or the torrential tribute or the Dynamiscus. So by the time that we had access to another tuner, it was way too late. We were just summoning Crystalling instead. But now with Needle Fiber being legal, we can tag out on our opponent's turn, draw a card, and synchro summon for this card. And Metaphys Horrors, not a lot of people know this card or what it does, but very, very good effects. I'm a huge fan of setting up weird boards and letting my opponent go instead of like, here's everything I have, beat it or lose. So when you summon this on your opponent's turn, you'll be negating 1 face-up card on the field permanently, and your opponent has to give you control of one of their monsters. It does not target, they choose. So if they only have 1 dude that they care about, you just take it. It's so strong. Very good card. I highly, highly recommend giving this card a chance if you haven't. One of my favorites. Alexander, he summons Crystalline Synchro Dragon. That's all he really does. You just have to play the one. He brings back Lamia to make Crystalline. Siegfried, my favorite card in the extra deck. The reason why I still play this deck. This card is just so good. It's so fair. Once per turn, negate a spell trap. Simple, good, very cool card. Always play it. He's protection. His best buddy, Crystalline Synchro Dragon. This card beats hand traps, and everybody's playing hand traps. There's not that many monsters in the game that beat Crystalline, and this deck can summon it fairly easy. This is very easy to do. It's a 2-3 card combo with this. If you have like the optimal hand, you can summon 2 of these, number 38, and other naughty things on your opponent's turn. But Crystalline, very good. Usually start this before you commit to your big plays, so you can stop the Nibiru's from completely destroying you. Very good card. Definitely play it. Level 9 Synchro. This can be absolutely anything in the game, honestly, but I decided to be this. It's a Crystron monster, but it's not Phoenix. It's this guy. He requires 3 monsters, 1 non-tuner, and 2 tuners. 2+ tuners, right? He's a level 9, so there's a lot of easy ways to summon him. The best way is to do it with with Genghis, Formula, and Lamia. That's a level 9 with 2 tuners. And when this card is Synchro Summon, if this card is Synchro Summon, you can target cards they control and or their graveyard and banish them. I think it's monsters. Yeah, you can target monsters in their field or graveyard and banish them. So it's like Trishula, but a little stronger because you can banish 3 monsters from their field if need be. And when it dies, you can get a banished monster back into your field. So you can get one of your DD monsters to start your chain of summonings, or take one of their big dudes that you just banish. Very good card. I highly recommend playing it. For my Xyz, I play number 38. He negates spells, traps. Or spells, my bad. It's really strong. It's a free negation for any spell. You usually take Mystic Mind with this. I decided to play this card especially because of Mystic Mind. Siegfried himself does not stop 2 minds, but Siegfried number 38, it's always a wrap. Very good card, definitely play it. Kali Yuga, come on, I don't have to explain this dude, he's just good. Play the one. Gilgamesh, very good card. I'm happy he's out, honestly. I'm glad they didn't kept waiting like they did with the structure deck. Gilgamesh, it's so good for the deck. Something the deck always lacked was getting scales consistently, and Gilgamesh fixes that just by having 2 DD monsters. Very good card. Just there's nothing I can really say that no one has really felt for this card. It's just so good. It's not game breaking, but it does so much for the deck. I'm happy it's out. And for the last card, Needle Fiber, the heart and soul of the deck. Like most decks are summoning Needle Fiber. They're doing some really silly things, but we are just summoning Librarian and drawing a few cards and having a good time. This card alone just brought the deck from the dead. There's so many cool things that you can do with this card. Hopefully it never gets banned. I was really happy when it came out. Again, it helps out a lot. If you guys want to see some combo videos or test hands, please do let me know down below. You'll be able to see the plays that Needle Fiber does or creates for this deck, which if you were a DD lover, if you're a DD enthusiast, you know those plays, what I'm talking about. Needle Fiber just does so much, but if you have not, you'll be able to see it on action, definitely. So very happy is out. I've been contemplating with playing a second copy, but that's a little too much. I don't think we have the space. I've cut so many cards from the extra deck. 15 is so unfair. So unfair, but we have to keep it fair, right? But this is pretty much it. Let me know what you think of the deck list down below. Please roast me if you need to. I'm sure we all are learning when it comes to this deck. There's so many ways to play it. This is the way that I prefer. If you have not seen it before, please give me a like, thumbs up. Helps out a lot. Share if you need to. Check out the channel for more. There's plenty deck profiles for you guys to look through. Some dual videos. Something that I will be right after this deck profile, I'll be uploading some dual videos with this deck, and maybe something to put it against what. But for now, I appreciate it if you made it this far. Again, like the video if you like the deck. Subscribe to stay tuned. Comment down below if you have any other questions, any concerns. If there's anything you want to see, always go down below and check out the channel. But for now, this was my take on DDs for the July 2020 format. I hope you enjoyed it. Alex out. Peace.